All right, we'll start with Matt Paris if you're there.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we got you, Matt.
Wes, just you experienced a lot in your first year, so just how did you think it kind of went, and what were some of the things that you take away from big picture?
Well, it's a different experience. We talked about it at length, kind of all season, the adjustment from being an assistant to a head coach, and kind of retraining your thought process. Even the day to day, how you work, becomes less and less about the opponent, and more centered around your team, and specifically managing people. And it's not just touching players every day, but you know all the other pieces. Whether it's the strength conditioning, it's the equipment, it's the your staff, all of that. All those guys and all those individuals rather need attention. The scheduling piece, there are a lot of moving parts, so it's an adjustment on a number of levels. Obviously, it's something you get more comfortable with as you go, but certainly unbelievable experience.
Right. And I know you pride yourself on defense, especially the fact that this team finished worse in defensive rating than it did a year ago. Just, I guess, what do you make of that? And I know you had a lot of moving parts and that sort of stuff, but just, I guess, what do you take away from that?
Well, I think it's sometimes a little misleading when you start looking at rankings alone.
Sure.
Because the numbers are going to change, and
Yeah,
at times it's a matter of a percent that changes a couple of positions. Overall, I'm not going to speak on what happened defensively last year. It wasn't here, of course. I thought we started off pretty strong. I thought that was a great start for us, not only winning games, but we had to rely on our defense to do so. We struggled offensively to point differential, so that was our calling card. We had to guard to give ourselves a chance. I thought we let go of that a little bit once we started to get an offensive rhythm. But that's no excuse. It's got to be a mindset and a commitment from day one throughout. So I think that's one big piece. With a lot of moving pieces as far as personnel as well, and the influx of personnel made it at times difficult. You factor in too the lack of practice time, especially during that COVID stretch. We weren't allowed to practice beyond just walkthroughs and team meetings. That lasted probably 3 to 4 weeks, which is a very difficult piece to absorb when you start thinking about adding, players in and out and not having the mandatory reps to get guys up to speed. So certainly not where it needs to be or where we want it to be. But I think overall we'll be better for it. Just having gone through it, and guys coming back with a sense of corporate knowledge as far as what's expected, and what it takes to really make a stand on that end of the floor.
Thanks.
We'll go to Ava.
Wes, kind of trailing off of that, what do you feel like you were able to achieve on the defensive end in terms of installing anything you wanted to do, just in kind of the last stretch of games that you had with some of the more core players who, I know things are going to be in flux, but what were you kind of able to get done in that short period of time defensively?
Well, we were able to add a few more layers, with some zone, some box and one, changing, the dynamics on the fly, which at times was difficult early in the year. Once again, a lot of new players, new staff. That level of consistency, I think, is where we wanted to be. But we found that later in the year, and our guys were able to absorb a little bit more, which I thought was terrific. So there's growth even in a small window. Getting KP out there at the 5 at times, playing Gaff, at the 5, KP at the 4. The different lineups and pairings allowed us to see different things, but also adding layers to what we're trying to do. I think and seeing it in real time, and that now gives us an opportunity to clean it up a little bit over the summer, tweak it a bit, but also we had that in our back pocket.
I also wanted to ask what you specifically would like to see Rui either add to his game or kind of improve on this offseason.
Well, I think Rui took a big step, in the past, just from my perspective, he was a mid-range player and played in the dunker, played off the elbows, played in the post, but to see him, step out offensively, add the 3-point dimension to his game, I think is a huge piece. On the flip side, we put him in different situations. It's not just switching on to the ball, but now switching onto the ball and guarding the ball in pick and rolls, which is a huge piece for a guy who probably never done it. But once again, that's one of those layers we're alluding to where there's growth. So I think expanding both sides of the ball for him will be great. He's picked up a lot quite quickly, and his ability to assimilate back into a group and to do it at a high rate. So I think it's a plus. But defensively, I think it's more the nuanced things for him. He's got the ability to guard the ball, to stay in front. We've seen him use his physicality, his size to guard bigs. But just more of the level of communication, identifying situations, cleaner and quicker, being able to articulate coverage, and process things, I think is important. But those all require reps. So I think it's just going to take a bit of time, but I think he's better now than he was when we first, started to implement him, 40 games ago.
Thanks, Wes.
We'll go to Chase.
Hey, Wes, what do you think about kind of the player development program you guys are developing from a macro view, just in terms of the system you're building for young players generally to develop, and just how year one went in that regard?
Well, I mean, it never goes completely as planned. Well, we've seen that, but I'm proud of how they've developed throughout this season. A lot of that's been because of opportunity. I know Tommy alluded to it, and we talked about it at times. Corey's a prime example. You're kind of searching for a way to find minutes for him, and he turns into your starter. And those minutes are invaluable. You can't simulate those situations, those stretches, those type of environments in practice. Having to be a starter on the floor and play against marquee players is a big piece. To me, it's going to accelerate your learning curve and hopefully your overall maturation. But I think that the being really efficient with these guys as far as their individual skill work, but also how that translates to a team game. I think it's always important to build upon some of your weaknesses, but also you have to learn to augment your strengths. And I think that's a big piece for this player development. And it's kind of the way we've attacked it. There's certainly a lot of layers to it. It's not just the on the court, but also your, the daily habits, getting the nutrition right, building up their bodies, the mindful dynamic. All these other layers, I think, for young players are important. And I think they had that this season because we were trusting them to be a heavy part of our rotation. So you want to piggyback on what they've experienced, but also understand that this is a valuable summer. It's really a first full summer for both Rui and Denny, and obviously Corey, his first crack at it as well. So we've got to take full advantage of this opportunity and move these guys forward. Defensively,
from a personnel perspective, what do you think you guys need, and what do you like about what you have moving forward?
Well, I think the biggest thing with the size, and our wing depth, we've talked about that at length, the versatility and flexibility that gives you. I think some of it's schematic. There's a level of communication that comes with that. But once again, we'll be better for it, having that, have to go through it. I think you guys will come back with a sense of understanding, a better sense of understanding. But, I think it's just more the mindset that you can't take possessions off. We can't wait, in the second or third quarter, second half to, get our defense into a game. It's just got to be more of a consistent mindset and approach. We got to do it from day one and do it as hopefully close to 48 minutes as possible.
We'll go to Neil.
Hey, Coach. Just looking back, I guess, was there one specific aspect of moving over, Tommy joked over the 18 inches to being a head coach? Was there one specific aspect where you thought the learning curve was just, a lot more than you could have initially expected? And maybe how do you hope to improve that going into year two?
Well, I just think overall communication. And it's not, the team messaging, it's carving out the individual time, and I try to touch players daily. But I think even in, you look at myself, I feel like times I talk too much. But I don't think you can. There's no such thing as, communicating too much, specifically, on the individual level. And I think that comes with also having the relationship, which we didn't have a ton of time to do prior to the season. So, kind of building that on the fly and doing that through, a lot of hiccups and adversity at times was difficult, but, I thought we managed it well. I think we have a terrific group of players, and we've seen, especially the stretch as of late, it's translated onto the floor, the level of connectivity. So that's something we want to certainly build upon, as we get Brad back and, implement and augment our roster. Keep in mind that's a good thing to have. We'll hold on to that.
And kind of once you've had now the exit conversation with Brad, I guess, what is your thought with him? What was kind of the mood and looking forward, kind of future forward-looking?
Well, there's a level of excitement, I think, from both of us that things didn't go as we had planned. A lot of that is for unforeseen circumstances, but I think there's a lot of excitement and hope about this summer and this group moving forward. The pieces that we've accumulated, not only in the trade, but to see the growth from within. So we want to continue that trend, continue to build from within, but also get these guys out on the floor together and create that synergy that we've stressed. So I think it's a big summer for all of us, but my takeaway from him is the excitement not only to get healthy, get back on the floor, but also get reacclimated with his teammates in a basketball sense.
Thanks, Coach.
Josh?
Yeah, good afternoon, Wes. How do you evaluate your team's point guard play this season?
Well, I think, in general, it's been by committee. When at times, especially, we were down bodies. We were asking Kyle and Denny to be facilitators and kind of orchestrate the offense. Brad took on a larger role at times because guys were out. But I don't think you need a point guard to run your offense and orchestrate everything. I think we got a lot of playmakers who can help facilitate that. Ideally, you have a guy who can, keep us organized, who can, defend his position, obviously make a shot when the ball finds him. But I don't think you need a guy that's tasked with having to, orchestrate everything. I think that's a lot to ask for in an ideal sense. But those guys don't exist. There's not, I don't think, 5 to 10 names, left when we look at the true essence of a point guard. I think they're hybrid guards and they're players, and I think you're trying to find the best talent and best complementary player for this group.
To paraphrase Tommy, one of the qualities that he said the team will look for, no matter whether it retains the 3 people you have now or trades or signs or drafts somebody, is the ability to stop the dribble, basically keep the ball in front. How rare a quality is that in the current league to find a point guard who does that above average or better?
Well, I don't think it's just point guard. When we talk about that dynamic, that's a big piece of your team defense. It's one thing to say, hey, this is schematic versus, when the coverage is blown or the ball finds its way out of the coverage. Now you got to close out and you got to guard. So it's not unique to just point guards. I think that's a big thing for not only us, but for teams around the league. Offensive players are too skilled. The rules are kind of, slanted in that direction, the freedom of movement. So it's very difficult to guard dynamic offensive players. So to have anyone, specifically point guard, but anyone to be able to stay in front of their matchup, guard their yard, I think is a big piece. And some of that is understanding personnel. Some of that's understanding, overall tendencies, but being in the right spot at the right time. So there are a lot of layers to, beyond just a guy who's got quickness or agility, the physicality to do it. There's also the mental piece.
Thank you.
Well, Christos?
Hello, Coach. Hope you're doing well. Speaking about the season that came to an end some days before, what was the biggest challenge for you? What was the best moment and the worst moment for you?
I think that, one of the best moments, the way we started the season was great. Winning in Toronto, that'll stick with me for a long time. Because I thought, guys are really dialed in. There was some excitement about the start of the season. And obviously we performed at a high level. So that was, to get your first win on the road, of course, that's an exciting moment. I wouldn't categorize, I can't say one specific moment that was tough. I think, as you reflect back on the year, there were a lot of little moments that were difficult. I think that what I'm most proud of is how we responded, our ability to adjust, absorb some situations, some tough circumstances, but you rally together and pull through it. And that doesn't always translate into wins. Some of these are, there's no quantitative measure, for a team to have to go through some of these things. But the fact that we were able to absorb it, and I think we're in a better place, come out on the other side, a better place.
And also speaking about the next season, how satisfied you are about the foundation that you have in this team, about the core that you have for the next season? How big, and do you feel that this core is a playoff caliber core from your perspective?
Well, I think I'm very excited about it. Honestly, it's our young guys got better. They had the opportunity to perform and get those valuable minutes under their belt. So as part of our rotation this year, they've logged a lot of live minutes. So I think that's a big piece. Obviously, the health factor is something we can't necessarily control, but if we come back healthy, we've seen the progression of our young players. I think we're setting ourselves up for a pretty bright future. I think there is a solid base, a foundation that we can continue to improve and tweak, continue to grow upon. But overall, I'm very pleased with where we are as a roster, where we are collectively, as a team. So I think there's a lot of excitement about where we can move this thing forward.
Thank you very much, Coach.
You're on.
Hello, Coach. Can you expand a little bit about Danny's abilities with the ball, not just in transition, but also in set offense, pick and rolls?
Well, yeah, I think it's an opportunity. We had plenty of opportunity to do that this year. So we looked at it this summer, and that was something we came in wanting to see. Was he capable of not only playing pick and roll, pushing in transition, making the right reads, at times orchestrating the offense. But it's well documented. Young player usage rate goes up. At times, the turnovers, mistakes will happen. So I think it's just an area of improvement for him, and it's a sign of growth. Anytime you're tasked with doing a little bit more, you have to kind of learn on the fly and work your way through some of the hiccups. But I think he overall, handled it well. It's a testament to him and his efficiency when teams start to game plan to try and take him out of pick and roll, take him off his right hand. That's a sign of respect. So we started to see that late in the season. So it does mean that his impact is noticeable. But yeah, he's got to grow, continue to improve his finishing, work with his left hand, his offhand. He's shooting the ball with more confidence, so continue that trend as well. And obviously, not only him, but we all have to get back to, working at defending at a high level.
Thank you.
We'll go to Wayne.
Hey, Coach, how you doing? With your first full season under your belt, what were some of the things you learned about yourself this season?
I think I had more patience than I thought. And it's just one of those things where it's a difference between being patient with people and patient with circumstance. And I think it's just that mindset of you can only control with the things you can control. Can't worry about the other stuff. Once you put that stuff aside, it really helps channel your energy in the right direction. And I think that for the most part, I was able to do that.
And lastly, Coach, I asked Tommy, but I'll ask you, when you look at your roster now and for the future, what are you hoping your identity can become as you lead the Wizards?
Well, I mean, it goes back to the defensive, point where that's part of our core identity. And obviously we didn't have that to the extent we wanted. So we certainly have to, take a hard look at what we're doing, how we're doing it, and get better in that area. But I do like where we are offensively, the ability to share the ball. Guys have bought into that, and I think they enjoy playing that way. So, continue that trend where guys are moving the ball, moving bodies. Everyone feels they're a part of it, but we do have to get back to defending at a high level if we really want to go where we think we can be.
We'll go to Zach.
Hey, Coach, you touched on defense as being an area of improvement you want to see from Rui, but what was your message to him at his exit interview?
Well, some of that I'll keep to, between myself and Rui. I was just proud of the way he responded, having missed camp, a large chunk of the season to have been thrust into a situation. And there were some minute limitations. There were some, restrictions at first, but being able to get up to speed, as best as possible, given the circumstance, but, then turning into a starter, which he was last season and performing at a high level. So to see him grow and expand his game is a big piece of that, but also, his ability to kind of absorb things on the fly, get to know a different group of players and coaches without having that, time in September or preseason. I was really proud of how he responded.
Thank you.
Chase, you have another question? Are you good?
Yes, I do. Cassius Winston and Isaiah Todd were, of course, 2 recent second-round picks by the team. How would you rate the season that they've had, where they are in their development, and what you would like to see from them this offseason?
Well, I'll answer that last part first. It's a big offseason for those two. Big offseason for all our young guys. But you're going to have a season of ebbs and flows. Consistency is a thing we're searching for, and that's one thing that young players at times have difficulty with. I thought Cash had some really good moments. Not a ton of sample size with the Wizards, but even with the Go-Go, both he and Isaiah had big games and great opportunities to learn and grow. But I think the more we can put time on the floor, and that's a message with not only our young players but all our players. Is of course you want guys to get away and regroup, get their bodies right, but it's important to stay connected to us because I think our staff, our coaches, our player development department, we not only know their individual game but how it translates to the team game better than anyone else. So I think we have to take full advantage of these opportunities over the next few months to really move them forward and get more out of them. But I think it was a good start for those two, and I'd like to see how it translates into the summer.
And we talked so much this year about paint defense. What do you think was the problem there with paint defense specifically?
Well, I don't think we were, grossly negligent in that area. Part of it is, at the point of attack, can you guard the ball? I think another big piece of that was, pick and roll. And these are some schematic things we have to take a look at. But the bottom line is, can you close out and guard one-on-one? Can we be in shrink coverage spots at the right time? And these are some things that we have to continue to improve upon. But overall, it wasn't just one specific thing defensively. You could point at our transition defense. We were number 1 in fast break points allowed. Now that's, whatever metric you use, our transition defense overall wasn't great. Some of that's turnovers, but there are a lot of areas that you can improve upon. And the paint is obviously a big piece of that.
All right, Coach, that is it. Thank you so much for your time.
Really do want to take the opportunity to thank you guys for everything you bring every day. And I know I don't actually get to see the faces, but to hear your voice, I can certainly appreciate after a long season your patience with me and some of my answers probably. But I wanted to say thank you for all your support and everything you guys do. Thank you.
Thanks, Wes.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks, Wes.